The first transmission came on a Tuesday at precisely 3:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Dr. Sarah Chen was the first to truly understand its significance, though no one believed her at first. The United Nations emergency session looked like a gathering of the defeated. World leaders sat with ashen faces, their screens filled with images that defied comprehension. Massive ships hung in the sky above major cities, not just one or two, but hundreds. Silent. Waiting. "We are the Krelgzen Imperium," the transmission repeated, its translated voice devoid of emotion. "Your planet is now under our protection. Resistance is mathematically improbable." Sarah stood at the back of the room, her quantum physics background giving her a perspective nobody else seemed to grasp. The ships weren't just technological marvels. They were living systems. Each vessel breathed with an intelligence that suggested something far beyond simple mechanical engineering. "They're not here to destroy us," she whispered to herself. "They're here to catalog us." Marcus Walker, a retired Special Forces commander seated nearby, caught her muttering. His weathered face carried the lines of 100 impossible missions, and something in Sarah's tone caught his attention. "Explain," he said simply. Sarah's fingers danced across a hidden tablet, pulling up complex mathematical models that seemed to dance with impossible complexity. "Look at the ship positioning, the energy signatures. This isn't an invasion. This is an assessment." The Krelgzen representative continued his emotionless declaration. Surrender was inevitable. Resistance was futile. Humanity would be integrated into the greater galactic society, whether they wished it or not. World leaders looked defeated. Military commanders seemed ready to capitulate. But in the back of the room, something else was brewing. Kai Chen, a teenage network specialist who had somehow gained access to the emergency session, was already working. His fingers flew across multiple devices, routing signals through networks that shouldn't exist, capturing data that nobody was meant to see. "They're scanning us," Kai muttered, his young voice carrying a weight beyond his years. "But they have no idea what they're looking at." The first wave of Krelgzen ground units began to materialize in major cities. Massive exoskeleton units that looked more like living machines than simple technology. They moved with a precision that suggested absolute confidence. Complete control seemed moments away. But Sarah Chen was watching something else entirely. In the complex energy signatures of the alien ships, she saw something the Krelgzen didn't understand. A potential. A possibility. Humanity was not what it appeared to be. Marcus Walker caught her eye. No words were exchanged, but an understanding passed between them. This was not the end. This was just the beginning. The Krelgzen thought they had won. They were gravely mistaken. The abandoned underground research facility beneath the Nevada desert hummed with an energy that defied its forgotten appearance. Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her quantum interface headset, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that shimmered with impossible complexity. Around her, a team of scientists and engineers worked with a precision born of desperation and hope. Marcus Walker, a retired Special Forces operator turned resistance coordinator, leaned against a reinforced concrete wall. His weathered face told a story of countless battles, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The alien occupation had transformed the world in weeks, but humanity's spirit remained unbroken. "Transmission incoming," called out Kai Chen, a teenage hacker prodigy whose skills had become their most valuable weapon. His fingers flew across multiple keyboards, routing signals through a dozen global networks to prevent detection. Elena's eyes locked onto the data streaming across her display. "The nano-adaptive material is showing promise. We've managed to create a metamaterial that can dynamically change its molecular structure in response to energy signatures." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "In English, Doc." She smiled, a glint of warrior's determination in her eyes. "We're developing armor and weapon systems that can literally reshape themselves to counter alien technology in real time. Every time they adapt, we'll be one step ahead." Across the facility, Other teams worked on equally revolutionary projects. A group of linguists and communication experts decoded alien communication patterns, developing algorithms that could predict and manipulate their communication networks. Another team focused on psychological warfare, studying the alien culture to identify and exploit their fundamental weaknesses. In a small corner of the facility, Maria Santos, a former UN diplomat, worked with a team of cultural analysts. Their hierarchical structure is their greatest vulnerability, she explained to Marcus. The Krelixen society is rigidly structured. They cannot comprehend the kind of fluid, adaptive thinking that humans naturally possess. Kai interrupted, his voice crackling with excitement. I've just intercepted a communication. They think we're still in complete disarray. They believe our governments are fully subdued. A low chuckle escaped Marcus. Let them think that. Every moment they underestimate us is another moment we prepare. The facility was a microcosm of humanity's resistance. In rural communities, in urban centers, in remote research stations, similar groups were forming. Farmers were modifying agricultural equipment into potential combat vehicles. Network engineers were creating communication systems that could survive and thrive under alien jamming. Teachers were training the next generation of resistance fighters, embedding survival skills and critical thinking into daily lessons. Elena approached a massive holographic display showing a global map. Tiny points of light represented resistance nodes, each one a beacon of human potential. We're not just building weapons, she said softly. We're rebuilding hope. Marcus nodded, his hand resting on a communication device. The first message goes out tonight, to every corner of the planet. We're not beaten. We're not conquered. We're coming. As if on cue, the facility's quantum communication array began to pulse. A message was being prepared, a signal of resistance that would travel across the planet, encrypted beyond the aliens' comprehension. The first true counterattack was about to begin. The Krelixen thought they had won. They were gravely mistaken. Humanity was just getting started. The Krelixen invasion ship hung in the sky above New Mexico like a massive obsidian blade, its angular hull casting an unnatural shadow across the desert landscape. Commander Zornak reviewed the occupation reports with clinical detachment, confident in the absolute superiority of his species' technological might. Below, in a seemingly abandoned military research base, Captain Laura Rice took a deep breath. Her team had been preparing for this moment for weeks. The nano-adaptive armor felt like a second skin, its molecular structure primed to respond to alien energy signatures in milliseconds. Transmission locked. Kai's voice crackled through her comm system. The teenage hacker was light years away, yet connected to every aspect of their operation through a quantum communication network the aliens couldn't even comprehend. Initiating Phase 1. Laura responded, her voice steady. The first wave of Krelixen ground troops materialized with their trademark precision, massive exoskeleton units designed to crush any resistance. Their energy weapons hummed with destructive potential, cutting-edge technology that had decimated dozens of planetary resistance movements. They never saw the first attack coming. Microdrones, developed from repurposed agricultural monitoring systems, erupted from the desert ground. But these were no ordinary drones. Each was a complex neural network, capable of adaptive tactics that defied traditional warfare algorithms. They moved like a living organism, consuming and redirecting the aliens' own energy weapons. The Krelixen commander's first indication of trouble came when his tactical display erupted in chaos. Energy readings went wild. Communication networks fractured. For the first time in their species' history, their technological superiority meant nothing. Laura's team struck from multiple angles. Agricultural equipment modified into weaponry. Network systems turned into psychological warfare platforms. Every limitation became an opportunity, every weakness a potential strength. They're using our own technology against us. Zornak muttered in disbelief, watching entire platoons of elite troops neutralized by what appeared to be agricultural harvesting equipment and communication relays. Marcus Walker's voice cut through the comm system. "Welcome to human innovation, you bastards." The battle wasn't just physical. As the Krellagsan troops struggled, their communication networks became a battleground. Kai and his global network of resistance hackers launched a multi-layered psychological assault. Alien communication channels were flooded with carefully crafted messages. Part disinformation, part psychological warfare, designed to create maximum confusion. Images of human resistance movements, stories of previous alien defeats, cultural artifacts that highlighted human unpredictability and resilience. Each transmission was a weapon more potent than any energy blast. Within 30 minutes, the seemingly insurmountable Krellagsan invasion force was in complete disarray. Not through superior firepower, but through something far more dangerous: human creativity. As the dust settled, Laura looked up at the fractured alien ship. "First blood," she whispered. Kai's excited voice came through the comm. "They're going to need a lot more than technology to beat us." Miles away, in the underground resistance headquarters, Elena Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. The first message had been sent. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were fighting back. The Global Innovation Center buzzed with an energy that defied the gravity of their situation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display, her fingers tracing intricate molecular patterns that seemed to dance with impossible complexity. Behind her, a team of the world's most brilliant minds worked in a synchronized rhythm of creation and destruction. "We're not just developing weapons," Elena explained to Marcus Walker, who watched with a veteran's critical eye. "We're rewriting the fundamental laws of technological engagement." Her latest project was a quantum adaptive neural network, a system that could learn, predict, and counter alien technology faster than the Krellagsan could comprehend. Each line of code was a weapon, each algorithm a strategic maneuver. Across the room, Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura worked on what appeared to be an impossibly complex piece of equipment. "Quantum entanglement communication," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "They can't intercept what they can't understand." Kai Chen moved between workstations, his young fingers bridging generations of technological innovation. He was the conduit, the living connection between raw human creativity and technological execution. "We're creating a living network," he explained to a colleague. "Not just a communication system, but an adaptive organism of information and strategy." The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A junior researcher named Sofia Martinez noticed a peculiar resonance in the quantum data, a pattern that suggested something far more profound than a simple technological solution. "Look," she called out, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos of the laboratory. The holographic display shifted, revealing a breakthrough that made even the most seasoned researchers pause. They had discovered a way to not just counter alien technology, but to fundamentally rewrite its operational parameters. It wasn't about matching the Krellagsan's technological might. It was about transcending it entirely. Marcus watched in awe as Elena explained the implications. "We're not adapting to their technology," she said, her eyes blazing with scientific passion. "We're forcing their technology to adapt to us." The implications were staggering. Every piece of Krellagsan technology could potentially be turned into a weapon against them. Communication networks, energy systems, even their most advanced weaponry could be subverted, transformed, reimagined. "It's not just about fighting," Kai interjected. "It's about understanding. Every piece of technology tells a story, and we're learning to read theirs better than they know themselves." Outside the facility, the world continued to change. Manufacturing centers had been repurposed. Every industry was now part of the resistance. Automotive plants created adaptive armor. Communication networks became weapons. Even agricultural systems were being transformed into complex defensive mechanisms. Elena approached the main display, her fingers dancing across the interface. "We're not just developing technology," she said softly. "We're composing a symphony of human potential." Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder, a symphony that the Krellagsan will never forget. As night fell, The Global Innovation Center continued to pulse with an energy of creation. Humanity was no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting to redefine the very concept of technological warfare. The communication hub was unlike any military installation in human history. Rows of analysts, linguists, psychologists, and network specialists worked in perfect synchronization, their target not physical territory, but the very mind of the alien collective. Maria Santos stood at the center of this extraordinary operation, her diplomatic background transformed into a weapon more precise than any energy blast. Communication is warfare, she explained to a group of young specialists. And we're about to wage the most complex battle in human history. Kai Chen's quantum communication network pulsed with carefully crafted information streams. Each transmission was a surgical strike, not of destruction, but of perception. The Krelixen believed in absolute order. Hierarchy was their religion, predictability their scripture. Humanity was about to tear that belief apart. Target identified. A linguist called out. On massive screens, alien communication patterns began to unravel, not through brute force, but through the most human of weapons, understanding. The first wave of psychological warfare was subtle. Intercepted communications were subtly altered. Cultural references were inserted that would create cognitive dissonance. Images and sound patterns that would trigger deep-seated uncertainties in the alien collective consciousness. Commander Zornak of the Krelixen first noticed something was wrong during a standard fleet communication. A transmission seemed to contain impossible contradictions. Hierarchical information streams became slightly, almost imperceptibly, distorted. "It's like they're speaking our language," one of his subordinates muttered. "But the words don't make sense." That was precisely the point. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had developed algorithms that could identify and exploit the fundamental psychological weaknesses of the Krelixen communication structure. Each message was a precision instrument designed to create doubt, confusion, and internal conflict. Marcus Walker watched the operation with the keen eye of a strategist who had seen countless conflicts. "We're not just fighting," he observed to Maria. "We're unraveling their entire concept of reality." The psychological assault was multifaceted. News of alien defeats, some real, some fabricated, began to circulate through their communication networks. Cultural artifacts that highlighted the value of individual thinking were strategically placed. Each transmission was a seed of doubt, carefully planted in the rigid structure of the alien collective. Kai's most brilliant creation was a communication algorithm that could adapt in real time. It learned from each interaction, becoming more sophisticated with every transmission. The Krelixen communication network was slowly being transformed from within. "We're not destroying their technology," Maria explained during a briefing. "We're making them question it. We're making them question themselves." By the operation's second week, the first signs of internal conflict appeared in the Krelixen fleet. Communication became hesitant. Strategic decisions slowed. The absolute certainty that had defined their invasion began to crack. As night fell on the communication hub, Kai looked up from his console. "They're listening," he said softly. "And they're starting to hear us." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "Welcome to human communication," he muttered. The psychological battlefield was just beginning, and humanity had only just started to play. The world had transformed into a living, breathing resistance machine. From the rice paddies of Vietnam to the urban landscapes of Lagos, from the Australian outback to the Canadian wilderness, humanity moved with a synchronized purpose that defied the Krelixen's understanding of collective action. Captain Laura Reyes stood on the command deck of the makeshift Global Coordination Center, a facility cobbled together from abandoned research stations and repurposed communication infrastructure. "We're no longer fighting defensively," she announced to the assembled global leaders. "We're taking the offensive." The plan was audacious. A coordinated global strike that would simultaneously target key Krelixen infrastructure across multiple continents. But this was more than a military operation. It was a symphony of human potential. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous tribes who had survived centuries of invasion now used their deep ecological knowledge to create biological countermeasures. Their understanding of local ecosystems became a weapon more sophisticated than any alien technology. Farmers in the American Midwest had transformed agricultural equipment into adaptive combat vehicles. Precision farming algorithms now guided missile systems. Crop rotation strategies informed complex battlefield maneuvers. Kai Chen's global communication network had become more than a communication system. It was a living, breathing nervous system of human resistance. Each node was not just a point of communication, but a potential strategic resource. Synchronization in 3 minutes, Marcus Walker called out, his voice steady. The veteran had seen countless conflicts, but nothing compared to this moment of global unity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked on the final technological preparations. The quantum adaptive systems they had developed were about to be tested on a global scale. "We're not just fighting," she muttered. "We're rewriting the rules of engagement." The first wave of the attack was invisible. Sophisticated cyber systems began to infiltrate and disrupt Krelkson communication networks. Then came the physical strikes. Coordinated attacks that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. A fishing boat off the coast of Chile became a mobile communication hub. A school in Mumbai transformed into a tactical research center. An agricultural cooperative in Kenya deployed technologies that would baffle alien reconnaissance. Commander Zornak watched in growing horror as his tactical displays erupted in chaos. The human resistance wasn't just fighting back. They were transforming the entire concept of warfare. "They're everywhere," a junior Krelkson officer reported, his voice trembling. "And nowhere." That was precisely the point. Maria Santos, coordinating from the Global Command Center, understood the deeper strategy. "This isn't about individual victories," she explained to her team. "This is about showing them the true nature of human potential." As the first wave of the global uprising reached its peak, something extraordinary happened. The resistance was no longer just fighting the Krelkson. They were reimagining what collective human potential could achieve. Kai looked up from his communication console, a smile spreading across his face. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore," he said softly. "We're fighting for our future." The space above Earth became a canvas of technological warfare, unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Massive Krelkson battle cruisers hung in orbit, their obsidian hulls gleaming with destructive potential. But something was different this time. These were not the same humans they had encountered mere months ago. Captain Laura Reyes stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, a ship that defied every conventional understanding of spacecraft design. Constructed from a fusion of captured alien technology and human innovation, it was a testament to humanity's adaptive capabilities. All systems online. Kai Chen's voice crackled through the communication network. He was everywhere and nowhere, a digital conductor orchestrating a symphony of resistance. The first wave of attack came from unexpected sources, satellites repurposed into weapon platforms. Communication networks transformed into coordinated strike systems. Even orbital debris became a weapon, each piece carefully guided by quantum adaptive algorithms. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the battle from the ground control center, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "They're using our own predictive models against them," she muttered to Marcus Walker. The veteran nodded. "That's always been our greatest weapon, unpredictability." In space, the battle defied every known principle of warfare. Human ships moved with a fluidity that shouldn't have been possible. Each vessel was more than a machine. It was a living, breathing entity capable of real-time adaptation. Commander Zornak watched in growing horror as his tactical systems began to fail. The humans weren't just fighting. They were evolving in real time. Every Krelkson strategy was countered before it could be fully implemented. "It's like they're reading our minds," a junior Krelkson officer reported, his voice trembling. That was precisely the point. The psychological warfare developed in previous weeks now reached its pinnacle. Communication channels became weapons. Each transmission was a precise strike, designed to create maximum confusion and doubt. Laura's voice cut through the chaos. "This isn't about destruction," she announced to her crew. "This is about proving what humanity can become." The Prometheus led a fleet that was nothing short of miraculous. Ships that could change shape, weapons that could predict and counter before an attack was even conceived. A fighting force that was part technology, part living organism. Maria Santos, coordinating from the ground, understood the deeper strategy. "We're not just fighting an alien invasion," she explained to her team. "We're demonstrating the true potential of collective human intelligence." As the battle reached its climax, something extraordinary happened. The human fleet wasn't just fighting, it was communicating. Each ship, each weapon system, each piece of technology was part of a living, breathing network. The Krelixen found themselves facing an enemy that didn't just adapt, it evolved. In the final moments of the confrontation, Commander Zornak realized the fundamental mistake of their invasion. They had viewed humans as a static species, bound by technological limitations. They were wrong. Kai's voice came through the communication network, calm and resolute. "We're not just fighting for our planet," he said. "We're fighting for our future." The world was quiet now, but it was a different kind of quiet. Not the silence of defeat, but the profound stillness of transformation. United Nations headquarters stood as a testament to humanity's journey. Where once diplomats had spoken in hushed tones of limitation, now they discussed possibility. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the podium, no longer just a scientist, but a symbol of human potential. "We didn't just survive," she told the Global Assembly. "We evolved." The Krelixen defeat was more than a military victory. It was a fundamental reimagining of what it meant to be a species on the galactic stage. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had demonstrated a capacity for adaptation that defied every known technological and biological principle. Kai Chen, now leading the Global Coordination Network, worked on something far beyond communication technology. "We're not just rebuilding," he explained to a group of young researchers. "We're designing our next evolutionary step." Marcus Walker, his body now enhanced with the same adaptive technologies that had turned the tide of war, looked out over the reconstructed cities. Each building, each piece of infrastructure, was a living system, capable of self-repair, self-adaptation. The technologies developed during the war had transformed every aspect of human civilization. Agricultural systems that could predict and prevent global food shortages, medical technologies that could adapt to any potential biological threat, communication networks that function more like living organisms than mechanical systems. Maria Santos led the new Interstellar Diplomatic Corps. No longer was humanity a species to be overlooked. They had become something else entirely, a civilization defined by its capacity for change. "We learned something profound," she told a group of alien diplomats who had come to understand the species that had so thoroughly defeated the Krelixen. "Survival isn't about strength, it's about adaptability." The Prometheus, the ship that had become a symbol of human potential, was now a museum and a research facility. Its technologies were being studied, improved, reimagined. Each day brought new discoveries, new possibilities. Captain Laura Reyes, now leading humanity's first true exploratory mission, understood the deeper meaning of their victory. "We're not conquerors," she told her diverse crew. "We're explorers. We're learners." In schools around the world, children were taught a new understanding of human potential. No longer were they told about limitations. They were challenged to imagine what could be. The Krelixen invasion had been a crucible. It had revealed something fundamental about humanity, a capacity for growth that knew no boundaries. Kai looked up at the stars, the quantum communication network pulsing with potential. "We're just getting started," he whispered. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge, and in doing so, it had become something entirely new. Not just a species that could survive, a species that could transform.